I think we got a problem here, Steve.
What'd I do?
Nothing, not this time, but it looks like someone is hawking bootleg going in raw merch.
What?
We'll send it your way. It is quite terrible. Snake Larson stuff is getting out of hand.
Yeah, that does look pretty terrible.
What is this? This name here, MF Steve there 69, dude. Is this you?
Yeah, it's totally me.
Why are you selling bootleg shit, man? Come on!
Well, really, it's a dual operation. You buy 3 kilos of crack cocaine, and then you get a Snake Larson shirt with it, so.
You know this directly violates our partnership agreement. I'm afraid I have to tell you this, Steve. I don't want to be the one to deliver this news to you, but I got to because you're in violation of our partnership agreement. It says it right here. You're fired.
I'm fired?
Fired.
I'm gonna go talk to my supplier, Miguel. He's part of this really cool club called MS-13.
Oh, God, you're in way too deep.
Hey friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
The word professional in the phrase professional wrestling is often just a suggestion rather than a hard and fast rule. As with any vocation, there are those that pride themselves on their professionalism, and there are those that don't.
So we found 10 wrestlers or wrestling performers that found out the hard way that it pays to be a professional. Here are the 10 stupidest ways wrestlers got themselves fired.
Number 10.
Jimmy Jacobs! Vince McMahon has a history of firing people over stupid shit. Just ask Jimmy Jacobs. In a recent interview with Hannibal TV, the wrestler and former WWE writer mentioned what a nightmare it is to work at WWE because Vince will fire anyone for the stupidest of reasons.
Yeah, he alleges that one writer almost got fired simply for not knocking on Vince's office door. Jacobs himself is no stranger to being fired for a stupid reason, taking a picture with his friends.
Yeah, in this case, he took a picture of himself with The Elite when they staged their own Bullet Club invasion of Monday Night Raw back in October of 2017. It was in a parking lot across the street, so it was more of an invasion-ish. Keep in mind, this was almost a full year before All In happened and AEW became an actual thing. At the time, being the Elite was popular, but it was hardly considered competition for WWE.
Still, Bullet Club was definitely on WWE's radar, so it's kind of surprising Jacobs would have taken the picture. Although he did mention in an interview this past August that at that point, he had stopped caring about whether or not he was going to be fired, having spent so long being worried about being fired.
If Vince fired you, Larson,
Yeah.
what would it be for?
Probably walking into his office without knocking and sneezing in his face.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, man.
That's everything he hates.
Yeah, man, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go all out.
Yeah, just don't fart though, because Vince loves farting. If you want to get fired, then don't fart. You'd probably get promoted to executive director or some shit if you walked in there and just started.
If I fired next to him, I'd probably be heir apparent to WWE.
There you go.
Number 9.
William Regal! NXT General Manager William Regal carries himself like the smartest guy in the room. And every time I read a story about him or read an interview with Regal, I get the sense that he is the smartest guy in the room.
Which is why it's so odd he'd find the dumbest way to get fired from WCW back in 1998. Goldberg was on his legendary win streak at the time, squashing everything WCW put in front of him in seconds flat. So it was surprising to see Regal treat Goldberg like an absolute clown in a 6-minute match on Nitro.
Yeah, Regal gets Goldberg locked up in all sorts of submissions, kicks him in the face a few times, just generally makes the future WCW and Universal Champion look like an asshole.
Asshole!
Of course, Goldberg won the match, but Regal was soon after let go from the company. Both men recount the situation differently, though. Regal said in an interview on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast that he was instructed to deliver a competitive match with Goldberg, whereas Goldberg himself counters by saying, no, it was supposed to be a Goldberg match, because Goldberg didn't really know how to wrestle, and they never went past 90 seconds.
Given that no other Goldberg match at the time was competitive, we probably side with old Bill's version of events, and that maybe Regal just thought it'd be funny to expose Goldberg for the crap wrestler that he was.
Yeah, watching Goldberg flail about for 6 minutes is actually pretty funny when you watch the match, especially when he's like 3 minutes deep into the humiliation and realizes Regal is just fucking with him and there's really nothing he can do about it. See, this is why Goldberg's afraid of Matt Riddle, man, because he knows if he really locked it up with him, Riddle would absolutely humiliate him.
You know, Goldberg did a pretty decent job of humiliating himself at Crown Jewel.
Number 8.
Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. While Hulkamania was still at its peak in 1987,
Brother.
there was another super patriotic talent under Vince McMahon's employ, whose star was also on the rise, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh, the 2x4 wheeling tough guy. He'd signed with the WWE at the beginning of that year and was more of an everyman in comparison to the massive Hulkster. And despite their differing appearances, it seemed that Vince was going to build up Duggan in much the same way he had with the Hulk by having him feud with the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
But all that came to an end when Duggan and Sheik were arrested following a traffic stop when police determined that Hacksaw was driving while high on the weed and Sheik was coked out, baby.
Yeah, drug use was apparently pretty rampant amongst wrestlers of the time. It was the 80s after all, and everybody was doing drugs.
Pretty much everybody was.
But kayfabe, brother, was very much alive and well, and something to be protected. And while it's bad PR to have two top talents pop for drug use, it was, apparently at least in Vince's mind, way worse for a top heel and a top babyface to be caught making towns together.
Yeah, so Vince allegedly fired both of them for essentially breaking kayfabe. And look at what we have today, Larson. Kayfabe being broken everywhere. You got Titus O'Neil taking pictures of Braun and Roman touring Rome together.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega showing up on Chris Jericho's podcast right after their vicious clash at Wrestle Kingdom. I could go on and on. It's a mess.
Yeah, man, kayfabe is dead, brother. I don't know what you expect.
And I expect Bray Wyatt to at least go through the Del Taco drive-thru while wearing his Fiend mask.
No way, man. The Fiend is a Taco Bell guy. No, make that Gym Boys. Hey, Gym Boys, let me in.
Can you only get Gym Boys if he's like in the Northern California area? Is that everywhere?
I don't know.
Number 7.
Highlander Robbie! Who here remembers the Highlanders in WWE? Raise your hands. Larson, I notice you're not raising your hand.
I remember them.
Yeah, I kind of vaguely remember them from the mid-aughts, but not really. You know who did know who the Highlanders were, though? TNA's production team.
Oh yeah, back in 2008 during a set of TNA tapings, Robbie, apparently a fan of either Six-Sided Rings or Scott Steiner, decided to get a ticket and be a fan in attendance. Well, TNA cameras caught him, gave him a lower third with his real name, and next to it, WWE wrestler.
That's low.
He realized cameras were on him and kind of froze, and then kind of put his hand over one side of his face like, oops, I didn't expect them to recognize me because I'm one of the Highlanders. Why did I do this? I'm not here.
In an interview a year later, Robbie says he's not even entirely sure why he went to a TNA taping, which is perfectly normal because why would anyone? I'm joking. TNA had some cool shit.
Yeah.
Anyways, Robbie apologized and he took responsibility. He was fired, but he also indicated in the interview that that might have been kind of the reason for going in the first place.
Well, do you have a reason or not? Yeah, the WWE had asked their wrestlers not to attend for obvious reasons, and Robbie said he wasn't happy in the company, so maybe it was just a subconscious way of getting out of it.
He probably knew it was going to happen. It's kind of like when I walk around here pantsless. It's my subconscious saying, I want Larson to leave. Sometimes I write that on my butt cheeks. Please leave, Larson.
It's not.
It's totally normal.
It's not a subconscious thing, Steve.
I'm going to put the O in the Larson right above the, right where the butthole is. Right there. So the butthole is the O in the Larson. And then I want you to leave. It's a very subconscious thing. I don't know what I'm doing it.
Number 6.
Jim Cornette! Okay, wait a second.
What?
Which one of Cornette's many firings are we talking about here?
Take your pick, man.
All right, well, let's run these down a little bit. There was a time he was fired from WWE Developmental Territory, OVW, for allegedly slapping Santino Marella because Santino laughed at the Boogeyman instead of like, he was supposed to act afraid of the Boogeyman.
Yeah, and there was also the time he allegedly threw a temper tantrum in TNA over Vince Russo wanting to push Eric Young to a top spot. That really should take the cake because somehow he made Russo look like a well-adjusted human being.
Yeah.
That is not easy to do.
No, it's not. He was also fired from Ring of Honor for basically booking a crap product while having Kevin Owens, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Tommaso Ciampa, among many other talented names on his roster.
And of course, he was forced to resign from commentary on NWA Power after making a racist joke. I'm probably missing countless other instances, but these all seem like pretty decent answers.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's Mike Cornette dry cough impression.
Number 5.
XPac! XPac! The man whose name was synonymous with Go Away Heat apparently had just that with WCW head honcho Eric Bischoff.
I guess if that's the case, in this instance, we have to call it 6 Heat then.
Yeah, sure.
6 in WCW.
okay? As XPac would tell it on his podcast, though, there wasn't one incident that led to his firing from WCW, but a series of silly, kind of sophomoric events that led to his eventual dismissal.
And then Hall and Nash locked Bischoff in a closet.
Okay, yeah. The first incident occurred during a match where XPac and Scott Hall were tagging against Harlem Heat when Pac, in full view of the TV camera, shouted at Stevie Ray, "Suck my D, MFer," but he used the actual curse words.
Was that when Hall and Nash locked Bischoff in the closet?
No, we're not talking about that. A couple weeks later, Pac's in action against Ric Flair, okay? And he pulls down the Nature Boy's trunks, not a big deal.
Yeah.
As XPac would tell it, Flair's bare buttocks have been exposed countless times. I know you and I have both seen it.
True, yeah.
But when he made his way backstage, Eric Bischoff told him, "You're in breach of contract," and fires him on the spot. XPac, of course, is livid.
And that must have been when Hall and Nash locked Bischoff in the closet, yeah?
No, damn it, no! Apparently DDP got in on that conversation.
Why?
And mentioned to Bischoff that Pac was supposed to do the job for him later on in the show. So guess what happened?
Hall and Nash locked Bischoff in the
damn it!
closet.
Bischoff rehired XPac, but he eventually did get canned by Bischoff while recuperating from a neck injury via FedEx, Eric Bischoff's favorite form of firing somebody, in what XPac called a power play to counter the growing influence of Hall and Nash backstage.
Oh, so that's when Hall and Nash locked Bischoff in the closet.
Yes, Larson. That's when Hall and Nash locked Bischoff in a closet. Bischoff claims that he fired Pac due to his substance abuse issues at the time, but regardless of the reason, it seems like XPac was on borrowed time in WCW. XPac would show up shortly thereafter in WWE to join DX.
While Eric Bischoff spent the majority of 1998 locked in a broom closet.
God, you're so difficult sometimes.
Oh, so
I feel like there's some heat here between us. What's up with that?
About to have to redub XPac Heat to and Larson Heat.
Number 4.
Curt Hennig! So if you haven't heard about the plane ride from hell, read up on it right now. It's one of the few times we've heard such an extensive and well-documented retelling of the madness of the pro wrestling industry.
And perhaps the most horrifying incident on that flight, and there are several contenders, was the shoot wrestling match that went down between Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig, and Brock Lesnar. Apparently, Curt continuously needled Brock about which one of them was the better amateur wrestler and challenged Brock to, at least to my knowledge, the first and only airplane match in pro wrestling history.
Yeah, I can't think of another one, to be honest with you. Brock accepted the challenge, and what started out as some playful shit-talking nearly turned into a death match at 35,000 feet because Brock tackled Curt right into the emergency exit door. You know what happens when that thing blows open. That's right, I've seen Lost.
They were eventually separated by Fit Finlay, Paul Heyman, and Triple H, but the damage to Curt's WWE career was done as he was fired shortly thereafter.
Yeah, that was a bummer. I love Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, Mr. Perfect was great.
Anyways, Brock spoke about their shoot fight on highly questionable, and in typical Brock fashion was fairly blunt about the whole thing, saying, being stuck on an airplane for 7 hours on an overseas trip, what else are you gonna do besides maybe pass out and fall asleep or get into trouble? We did both.
Which one did you do?
I would just fall asleep or try to, and if I couldn't fall asleep, I'd just stare at the seat in front of me.
What, are you gonna spend 7 hours eating peanuts and getting free beverages?
Yes!
Nah.
I'm not gonna fight somebody into the emergency exit.
Live a little. Go urinate in the aisleway or something like that. Come on.
Just get me arrested. And why wasn't anybody arrested from this trip? That's insane.
That's the real question.
Right?
Yeah, that's the real question.
Number 3.
Ultimate Warrior! From his win over Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6, the sky seemed to be the limit for the Ultimate Warrior. Unfortunately, in reality, the limit was about 9 months, because at the Royal Rumble 1991, he lost his title to Sergeant Slaughter, who at the time was playing an Iraqi sympathizer.
And by the time SummerSlam 91 rolled around, Warrior, quickly declining in relevancy in the company, decided to use the leverage he didn't have to wrangle $500,000 and more from Vince McMahon.
Yeah, he wrote a lengthy, and when I say lengthy, I mean novel-length letter to Vince McMahon with a list of demands, including, but not limited to, the following. $550,000 for his Mania 7 payout, the same cut on pay-per-view, TV, and live shows as Hulk Hogan, the same merch cut as Hogan, the same cut of 1-900-Warrior hotline money that Hulk got from the 1-900 Hogan hotline. Basically, he just wanted what Hulk Hogan got. Oh, and he also threatened to stay home from SummerSlam.
Vince wrote a short but diplomatic letter back saying, yeah, okay, sure, we'll do all that. Then as soon as Warrior was done with the SummerSlam 91 match, boom, he was suspended by Vince.
Not to be outdone though, Warrior said, "I'm not suspended, I quit."
Wait till I said, "I'm not suspended, I quit."
I'll accept that you just spat on me because that was funny. Anyways, he sat at home, but a year later, Hogan was considering leaving the WWF, so Vince called Warrior back because evidently he figured dealing with Warrior's weird bullshit was a better option than trying to convince Sid to not be a heel or trying to convince Sid to not leave during softball season. We'll talk about Sid later.
Yeah, we will. Anyways, Warrior came back for a bit, but then steroids happened, and he was released again. 4 years later, he came back and squashed Triple H at WrestleMania, but then, again, released when he kept no-showing events, claiming he had to deal with his ailing father. Vince didn't buy it because he claimed he knew Warrior and his dad were distant, so he just let him go.
Yeah, probably a wise move on his part.
Yeah, it was.
So which of these was the stupidest reason Warrior got fired, Larson? Just choose one. They're all pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Although I once quit a job when my fake grandma died too, so I don't know. Maybe I have a little bit of the Warrior in me after all, Larson.
It's not something to be proud of.
No, I'm not proud of it at all. No.
Number 2.
Sid! Sid Udy is by far one of the most enigmatic figures in the history of pro wrestling. The dude was huge, he had a great look, and he was decent on the mic.
Yeah.
He was pretty much 3/4 of a really good wrestler, but I can't think of anyone who continually made decisions that sabotaged his own career as often as Sid.
Maybe the Warrior, though.
Maybe Warrior.
Like, Vince was going to make him the face of WWE after Hogan left, but Sid was all like, thanks, but no thanks. I want to work heel. Think what he really meant was that he didn't want the responsibility of being the top guy because he knew he was going to bolt when softball season started.
Yeah, man. That first stint in WWF didn't last long.
Nope.
But when he returned to WCW in 1993, Sid was poised to defeat Vader for the WCW title at that year's Starrcade. And that's like a huge deal.
Massive deal.
So of course, what does Sid do? He goes and gets in a scissors fight with Arn Anderson in a hotel room during a tour of the United Kingdom in October of that year.
Both men walked away from the fight with plenty of stab wounds, 4 for Sid, 20 for Arn.
It was a squash match.
But Sid also walked away from the skirmish unemployed. Apparently the locker room didn't look too kindly upon a wrestler stabbing another wrestler 20 times, because there are many talents who threatened to walk out on WCW if Sid remained with the company.
It's shocking that Arn survived that. I know. Of course, Sid went on to have a pretty decent career for himself after this, winning both the WWF and WCW titles before breaking his leg in one of the most gruesome in-ring injuries in professional wrestling history.
I wonder if that kept him from playing softball.
No.
Number 1!
Earl Hebner! Few referees in the wrestling business were as iconic as Earl Hebner. The man was basically a third character in whatever match he was officiating and enhanced whatever story was being told in the ring.
So it was somewhat shocking when he got fired in July of 2005 for selling bootleg WWE merchandise. Surely the man that reffed Hogan versus Andre wasn't hawking cheap WWE knockoffs from the trunk of his car, was he?
Not exactly, no. According to the Wrestling Observer himself, Dave Meltzer, Earl had an interest in a shirt store called Pro Shirt Shop. And that shop had been selling legit WWE merchandise without their authorization. Meltzer alleges that Earl's brother Dave was supplying the merch because he ran the merch stuff at the WWE live shows.
All right. Well, last year in an interview with Sean Mooney, Hebner denied this story and said they got the merch from a licensed dealer and said he was still pissed and would never go back, claiming he was offered a Hall of Fame spot if he did. Earl said he was in the TNA Hall of Fame, and that was good enough for him. See, here's a picture of Earl at TNA Hall of Fame.
Earl! What are you doing? Did he make that shirt himself?
I don't know, but now Earl is with AEW now.
Oh, no, Earl! Come on,
Earl.
Anyways, there are lots of stupid ways wrestlers have found to get themselves fired. Please let us know some of your favorite stories below.
And be sure to smash that like button and sub the channel and hit the notify bell thing and all notifications. Make sure you hit on that so you get all your new Going In Raw content every day.
I heard Earl's a big fan of Going In Raw too. Oh, Earl! What are you doing?